So, Dave, what are we doing today?
Yeah, well, I'm looking, Jeff, at page 23 of this wonderful book by our guest today, Aaron Poochigian, Marcus Aurelius Meditations. This is the translator's note, and Poochigian says, Meditations is a philosophical notebook the Emperor Marcus Aurelius kept for purposes of personal improvement. He no doubt did not intend it to be published.
Sounds great.
Welcome to the Ad Nauseam podcast, where classical gourmands everywhere can finally get their fill. Join us for a delectable discussion of Greco-Roman civilization stretching from the Minoans and Mycenaeans through the Renaissance and right down to the present. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here are your hosts, Dr. David Noe and Dr. Jeff Winkle.
Welcome, Ad Nauseam listeners, to episode 215 of our little podcast. As always, my name is Dr. David C. Noe. I'm here in the Vomitorium Central, with my good friend and fabulous co-host, Dr. Jeffrey T. Winkle, who said, in response to the audio intro, with all the enthusiasm he could muster, sounds great.
It's almost like I wasn't even paying attention.
How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing just fine.
Are you?
No, it does sound great.
Okay.
I mean that sounded a little bit,
phoning it in?
Phoning it in.
Right.
But no, I'm very excited about today and our interview with this author, Aaron Poochigian.
Yes.
Did I say his name?
Yes, Poochigian.
Poochigian.
That's
there we
correct.
Go. Yeah.
It's a unique name. It's a fantastic translation of Marcus Aurelius that he's given us. And so he sent some pronunciation instructions because, I mean, the man doesn't want his name butchered. And, you know, we can butcher almost anything from the macabre to the whatever.
We have a long history of butchering things. Yes.
Now, I don't think we have any housekeeping to take care of before we welcome Aaron to the show, do we?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. But
Nope.
I wanted to tell you about a little something I've been struggling with.
Okay, please.
Yeah. So I got this rash.
Oh, no.
Yeah, on my forearm.
Do I really want to hear this?
Yes.
Okay, tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to Alabama recently to present at the Calvin Studies Society colloquium.
Yep.
And I got back, and maybe it's some kind of an allergic reaction. So I went to my dermatologist.
Yes.
And I said, "You say yes, I say no. You say stop." And my dermatologist said, "Go, go, go."
Yeah.
Oh no. I said to my my dermatologist said goodbye, and I said hello, hello, hello.
So you guys were not on the same page.
No,
at all.
I don't know why you say goodbye.
Yeah.
I say hello, hello, hello.
Yeah.
And the dermatologist and I just went back and forth like that. I said hi, she said hello. I said why, and I said I don't know. So it went on and on.
Yeah.
And she refused to give me any medicine.
Really?
For this terrible rash on my arm that was itching so badly.
Yeah.
So finally I said, "You say goodbye," and I say, "Hello, hello, hello."
Oh man,
Was it worth it? Was it worth the trip?
It was. I like it.
The aloe vera?
Of course. Yes. It was a bit of a long setup.
That wasn't that long. Do you remember some of our other setups?
Yeah, I know. They've been much longer.
They've been much longer.
Right. Yes. But then the bomb dropped, and
yeah.
I enjoyed it. Yes.
Okay. I mean, it's right. Dr. Caesarified, the very famous dermatologist, put some aloe on it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's typically what they say.
That's right. Yeah.
So we've given away our Aristotle copies.
Yep.
We have no shout outs.
No shout outs.
Will has not sent us any corrigenda recently.
Thank goodness.
Although we're probably due one or two.
I'm always nervous.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess we just welcome Aaron to the show.
Let's do it. Right, so we are really excited to welcome Aaron Poochigian to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure to be here, David and Jeffrey.
Yes, we see you. Our audience can't see you, but I can see behind you up on the shelf over your shoulder, the very volume that we're talking about today. And I wonder if you could just start us off by talking a bit about your background, how you came to the classics, and then I know that you've translated other works as well, and kind of finally how you came around to tackling the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, yes. I had a kind of almost religious experience when I was 18. I was reading in my humanities textbook in college the opening of Virgil's Aeneid in Latin. And I didn't know Latin, but I sounded it out. And yeah, as I said, it was like a religious experience. Oh, the sky became brighter, and I knew I was supposed to learn ancient Greek and Latin and become a poet.
Wow.
I started out translating mostly as craft exercises to focus on my own poetry, to learn to absorb the great voices of the past into my own voice. But that turned into a kind of career in that I ended up publishing a fair number of translations of ancient Greek poetry. And so, yes, I've been translating since, since I was in graduate school, since my mid-20s. But more recently, after a difficult time in my life, I was looking at different forms of meditation in order to soothe my mind. I tried a bunch, and that's when I reread Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And it really spoke to me. When I first read it in graduate school, I think I was too young to appreciate Marcus's wisdom. I was a poet and I wanted big emotions, rather than being dispassionate, as is sometimes encouraged by Stoics. But when I reread it, it was like a revelation. And the voices, which I can talk about later, in particular, the bossy instructor's voice and the vulnerable aspirant's voice spoke to me. And when I did a survey of other translations, I found those voices had not been brought to the surface, that I didn't feel that the whole work was brought to the surface in living color. And so I felt there was a need for what I call a literary translation of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. One that appreciates what he does as a literary artist in the 488 entries that make up the Meditations.
Huh. So where did you go to grad school? I mean, some of our listeners are very interested in this kind of thing. Can you just tell us the briefest academic bio, your undergrad, your grad years?
Yes. As an undergraduate, I went to a liberal arts college in the Midwest called Morehead State University. And then I got my PhD at the University of Minnesota, Twin Cities. Subsequently, when I realized I was going to be a writer rather than an academic, I then went on and got an MFA after my PhD at Columbia in creative writing.
Okay. Now, Jeff, Minnesota is like the Crimson Gophers or something? What's
the Golden Gophers. The Golden Gophers.
The Golden Gophers.
The Saffron Badgers? I'm losing track here.
Wisconsin Badgers and Minnesota Golden Gophers.
Right. Yeah. So what would Marcus Aurelius think of that? What would he think of my faux pas there, mixing up the animals, I wonder?
No.
Yeah. So thank you for giving us that little bio. I'm looking at this very handsome volume that the publisher sent to us. I'm very grateful for it. Imprint of W.W. Norton and Company, and says you've translated 4 plays, including from Aristophanes, including this from Sappho called "Stung with Love: Poems and Fragments." I want to know, Aaron, did you come up with that title, or was that the editor?
That was my first translation. It came out with Penguin Classics, and I had my first academic job. I was a visiting professor at the University of Utah. And I knew I wouldn't be staying there. It was kind of a lonely time, but I immersed myself in the poetry of Sappho, and it was exciting for me and good for me as a writer to write in drag. I was writing in a female voice, and I just got lost in it. And yes, that book ended up being my first published translation, and others came out subsequently.
Right. Wow. It's a great title.
I'm just curious, again, before we kind of get deep into Marcus Aurelius, how has your experience with kind of ancient Greek poetry affected your own poetry? Do you see a direct influence? I
do, in that the Sappho in particular, she didn't write poems. She wrote songs, lyrics for songs to be accompanied on her barbitos, on her lyre. And so I go for very song-like language. Also, though I'd like to think my poetry is very contemporary in its idiom, I'm a formal poet in the same way as the ancient Greek poets were with their various metrical templates. And the purpose of that is that, yes, I want to capture that song-like, that lyric in the ancient Greek sense, lyric quality in my own poetry. It's not for me to decide if I've done that, but that's what I try to do.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Getting back to Sappho, is I know that a challenge for lots of translators who are translating poetry is, what do you do as far as trying to replicate the ancient meter into an English translation. Do you attempt to do a kind of one for one, or do you kind of, is your goal to kind of make it its own thing?
I tried in the beginning to translate into the original meters of ancient Greek, but I quickly realized that that's not the way to go. In that, let's say, take the beginning, say, of Homer's Iliad, Menina Edathea, right? And then it goes on from there, and it's just glorious for 24 books, right? But in English, we have a different prosodic system. Right? And so ancient Greek and Latin poetry, those are quantitative meters that assess the length of the syllable. Whereas in English, our poetry is rather qualitative. We assess the stress. And so Homer's Menina Edathea becomes in English hickory dickory dock. Those triple meters in English end up sounding like light verse. And so rather, when I was translating poetry, I tried to find forms in English that capture the meaning of the original form in ancient Greek, which is why when I translated Sappho, for example, I used the meters and even rhyme in the Sappho translations to mark them off as not prose, to mark them off as poetry and song. And so, yes, I did not use original meters. And I've read some original meters translations, and I do find, for the most part, that they don't work in English. You have to find some, you have to replicate the form of the original.
Yeah. I'm fascinated with Aristophanes, and I did a translation of Frogs, which is my favorite Aristophatic play. But when you come to those choral odes, or when you get to the frogs themselves doing their songs, trying to make it not sound like Dr. Seuss is a real challenge, right? And you try to make it kind of fun and readable aloud. But if you try to, like you were saying, if you try to stick to that original meter, it ends up sounding awful.
Yes, they don't work in English. I had to accept that young. Our poetics, our prosody, and our whole poetic system is radically different in English.
Yeah. So if I can turn, Aaron, to page 3 of the book, and one of the things that we tend to do for our readers is we try to make sure each episode, no matter the theme, has a little bit of red Greek or a little bit of red Latin. And so I've got the Greek text in front of me. I mean, you're the poet and translator. I don't want to step on your toes.
No, go ahead.
So how about I just read a couple lines and then you read us your translation of.
Sorry, but this is page 3 of the translation. Got it.
Yes,
got it.
number 7 from Rusticus.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, I like that one. So I'll just read a couple lines. Is that all right, Jeff?
Yeah, please.
All right,
let's do it.
Parar rustiku tolabein fantasian tu chreidzein, dia thorseos kai therapeas tu ethus, kai tome ek trapena es zelan sophisticon, medeta sun graphen periton theobrematon, e protreptica logardria dialegesthai, e fantasi, oh my, that's a tough one, fantasioplektos, ton asketikon, I'm trying to get to the end of the sentence here, eton energetikon andra epideknusthai.
Yes, those early entries. If you want me to talk about, yes. Book 1 is different from the rest of the other 11 books of the Meditations, in that Marcus uses it to express gratitude to important people in his life, people who are models for his character. And so there he's talking, to Rusticus, who is one of the most influential people in his education. He later goes on to mention that Rusticus could frustrate him and almost anger him, and he tells himself, I'm glad I never snapped at Rusticus. Would you like to meet? It's a long sentence.
That's okay. Could you read us the whole of that entry, number 7? Because I like it quite a bit.
I would love to. And so I just want to point out, one of the things I did with Marcus's long sentences, he frequently uses lists, right? And it's an aide memoir. The Meditations is meant to remind him of things he's thought before. And so I present those long sentences that are lists in list format. What I learned from Rusticus: awareness that my moral character needs nurturing and correction. An aversion to speechifying, writing on abstruse subjects, composing preachy little screeds, and ostentatiously playing the role of hermit or humanitarian. An avoidance of rhetoric, poetry, and witticism. a disinclination to walk around the house in imperial attire and do other such showy things. The habit of writing my correspondence in a plain manner, as he, Rusticus, did in a letter he sent my mother from Sinuessa. An instinct to be conciliatory and quick to forgive toward those who have provoked or offended me as soon as they are ready to make up. The habit of reading with attention to detail and not being content in a dismissive way with the gist of what is written. A resistance to mere fluidity of speech. And then finally, perhaps the most important one, the discovery of Epictetus's discourses, lent to me from his, Rusticus's, home library.
Right. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Jeff, two things occur to me here, and I want to get Aaron's feedback on that.
Yeah.
I don't think you could probably get on too well with Marcus Aurelius because of this line that made both of us smile.
Okay.
A disinclination to walk around the house in imperial attire. I've been at the Winkle home with your purple slippers and your purple robe and your, what is it, the imperial margarine hat that you wear.
Yeah, he would have found my whole wardrobe insufferable.
Way too imperial. But then the second part is, maybe Aaron, you don't have to comment on that, but if you want to, if you could tell us a little bit about Marcus Aurelius as a Stoic, because here's the connection, right, with Epictetus and his Stoicism. After reading and studying and gaining expertise and translating all of this, would you describe Marcus Aurelius primarily as Stoic, or is there a better moniker to identify him?
I do identify him as Stoic, and it's great that you brought up Epictetus. Of all the famous Stoic authorities, for example, Zeno of Citium, Chrysippus, I've recently gotten into Musonius and Seneca. Out of all those Stoics, Marcus Aurelius quotes from Epictetus most of all. He's most influenced by Epictetus, and they're similar in that Marcus does not focus on the other two branches of Stoicism. He doesn't go in for logic, and he doesn't go in for physica, for thesis, for studying natural philosophy. He's focused exclusively on ethics. And that is Epictetus's focus as well, right? How to live the good life, a great question in classical philosophy. And Stoicism is called an eudaimonistic philosophy in that it leads to happiness. And that's what most readers are after when they're reading this. But I should point out that that happiness is a byproduct. What's most important in the Meditations is just action, right? And yes, and then everything else results as a kind of byproduct in your life out of those just deeds that you are performing.
That's really well said. I was going to ask about kind of what distinguishes kind of his Stoicism from others, but I think that hits it on the head. Now, a question that I wanted to ask is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is isn't it from the Greek itself that Aurelius never intended for this to be published? These are really this is philosophy that he's writing to himself.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could talk about. Do you know a bit of kind of the history or the manuscript history of these things that he was writing for himself? Never intended to publish. How did they come to be published and disseminated?
Got it. So yes, two questions. I think I can handle it. The scholarly consensus is that Marcus did not intend the Meditations to be published. And I agree with that view. It seems obvious to me. We have, for example, an imperial autobiography in the Res Gestae Dili Augusti, the accomplished deeds of the divine Augustus. And it's written in the first person, and it's totally whitewashed. And there's any mishap or misfortune the Emperor Augustus suffered is kind of whitewashed over, right? That is imperial autobiography meant to be preserved. Marcus, in contrast, right, he uses slang terms for feces and semen. He praises Old Greek comedy, Aristophanes in particular, for its freedom of speech and for humbling arrogant people. And so Marcus also talks about vices he has, how he's prone to anger, and he's fighting against that. And so I'm absolutely certain that Marcus Aurelius did not intend this to be published. Nonetheless, on his death, the assumption is a secretary, the Greek secretary, perhaps for Marcus Aurelius, chose to preserve it. We assume that. And then it's rarely mentioned in later antiquity. There are a few Byzantine authorities going much later who praise it, right? And then they talk about having the manuscript recopied, right? But the manuscript tradition is pretty skimpy. We have one almost complete manuscript of it at the Vatican, and then a bunch of other manuscripts that preserve only excerpts of it. There was, in the 16th century, a translation of the Meditations into Latin by a Wilhelm Zeilander, was a really early published book, right? Not all that long after the Gutenberg Bible. And so it was published early on in Latin. And then the manuscript that Latin translation was based on was subsequently lost. And so we have roughly 6 Greek texts of it, only one of them almost complete, and then a good Latin translation of it as well. And that's the basis then, yes, for the whole, for all of our translations into English of the Meditations.
Gotcha.
Now, was it Zeilander that gave it the title Meditationes?
Oh, thank you for bringing that up. It was certainly, the work was certainly untitled at first, right?
Okay.
And subsequently, when people refer to it, it's referred to as things to oneself, right? Auton. That the Meditations title only came up in the 18th century when the famous classicist Caesarified, for his first English translation of it, chose to title it Meditations. And that's been standard in English ever since.
So I looked at the 1908, I'm sure you know this critical text really well, the 1908 Leopold text, and it's just, it's probably what you worked from, but it's just entitled Ad se ipsum, right? To himself?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. That was another going title of it. I based my text on the mid 20th century text of Farquharson. It was his life's work. And he, it was important to me to have the apparatus criticus down below so that I could work with the various manuscripts and their variants.
Right. So just for our listeners who might not know what that is, correct me if I'm wrong here, Aaron, because this is not my expertise. Maybe it's Jeff's, but the apparatus criticus just shows the different manuscript variations, and it's a little bit of commentary on how the editor decided what is the authentic reading.
Yes,
is that accurate?
And an apparatus criticus to someone who's not acquainted with them, they're really alienating. It's full of abbreviations and codes, letting you know Latin. Which manuscript has which reading in competition to the one that is published. And in text criticism, we call that the ipsissimo verba. We're trying to get to the very words themselves of Marcus's original manuscript. Yes.
Excellent. So I want to skip ahead now to the beginning of book 2, which is page 13 of your translation.
Certainly.
And I'm going to ask you a question that you probably have been asked, but maybe not.
Oh.
So book 2 has this little superscript written on the Gran River, a tributary of the Danube, while on campaign against the Germanic tribe, the Quadi. So my mind goes back to 1999, maybe? I don't know. And Richard Harris is there in the movie Gladiator, telling a young Joaquin Phoenix, your failures as a son are my failures as a father. So do you get asked about the movie, about the portrayal of Marcus Aurelius, and what does your knowledge of the location here, the most wise philosopher king who's also slaughtering Roman enemies by the truckload, right?
Yes. Yes, thank you for asking that. For roughly the last 7-8 years of his life, Marcus was on the northeastern frontier of the Roman Empire, and he was waging a war against a series of Germanic tribes and then their Indo-Iranian allies, the Sarmatians. The war went on and on. The German tribes provoked it. And eventually, so it wasn't a Roman war of conquest. It was a defensive war. I talk about it in the introduction, in that Marcus requires himself it's part of Stoic philosophy to love his fellow human beings, right? Part of this comes from our membership in a pan-human ethical community. Koinonia is the ancient Greek word, related to koine, which means common or shared. I translate it as the human commonwealth. That's my coinage for it. It is a separate state to which every human being belongs. And then we have dual citizenship in that, and then in our home states as well.
Right.
And so it was hard when I was thinking about it for a second to reconcile Marcus's view about loving human beings and then his his role as a warrior, as the leader of war against Romans. But there are a couple ways out. Marcus talks about only humans belonging to the human commonwealth, and he regards some people who are as permanently divorced from the human world. The savages is how they will translate it, right? Even worse than barbaroi, right? They're even worse. They're outside of humanity. Also, Stoicism is big on doing one's duty in one's career. You have to live your life as a Stoic and live your life as whatever occupation you have. And certainly Marcus was scrupulously dutiful as an emperor. And so waging war was one of those responsibilities, and it was a defensive war. But let's get on to portrayals of Marcus Aurelius, in particular in the Gladiator film. Marcus, in scholarship, in films, for example, and in other literature, he ends up being one thing or another. He ends up either being a saint or a prig. And both of these portrayals go back to antiquity, right? In the biographical material we have, he's portrayed sometimes as beatifically as a saint, as he is in Gladiator. And then other scholars regard him as, who are down on Stoicism, regard him as a prig. Arrogant, callous, and unfeeling. I wanted to, in the portrayal of him that comes out of my translation, I wanted to avoid both of those. Like, no one can be impeccably virtuous in his entire life, and Marcus certainly isn't, right? But Marcus also shows in many ways, one I've already talked about caring for one's fellow humans, that he is not callous and unfeeling. And so I wanted a balance. I wanted the human Marcus Aurelius who falls between those two poles, between the saint and the prig.
That's very well put. I like the first, if I can just real quick, Jeff, I like the first meditation in book one. When you wake up each morning, prepare yourself with these words. I will encounter someone meddlesome, someone ungrateful, someone debauched, devious, slanderous, brutish. And then Jeff shows up on my doorstep for the podcast. I'm just kidding. You were going to ask him a substantive question.
Yeah, I was curious. In anywhere in the Meditations, does Marcus ever root his philosophy in any kind of theology? Does he grant kind of is there a spiritual nature to any of this?
After book one, the introductory book, I would argue that all of it has religious significance. Marcus shows, and this is an argument against the callous, unfeeling Marcus. Marcus shows a religious zeal for his Stoicism and for the major movers and shakers in the Stoic universe, such as nature, which is everything happening in the world, the logos, which is the rational principle that runs the universe, and other concepts. And so at one point, he even utters prayers to nature. And so I would argue there's no real distinction in the Meditations between philosophy and religion. They go step in step the whole way through. And Marcus is a zealot. He is relentlessly earnest. And that came to endear him to me. Like, his words flash with the fire of the true believer, right? He is all in on what he's talking about in every entry.
Gotcha. No, that's great. But just to push that a little bit further, so I mean that's a great answer. But no specific references to like the traditional gods.
Yes, I'd be happy to talk about that.
Please.
The Stoics, by and large, saw Stoicism as reconcilable with with Greco-Roman religion, polytheistic religion. Early on, Chrysippus identifies the whole universe as a male god, as Deus is the word that Cicero uses when recounting Chrysippus's account. And subsequent Stoic poets like Aratus, for example, the author of the astronomical poem, The Phenomena, he refers to this male god as Zeus. And Marcus does the same. At other times, Marcus will refer to the gods in the plural, but he rarely mentions them by name. He regards the gods as being aspects of the cosmic order, which is summed up in Zeus.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Yeah.
Well, speaking of summing things up in Zeus,
Yes.
I think it's time for our ads.
This episode of Ad Nauseam is brought to you by the wonderful folks at Hackett Publishing. These guys, they've got their offices in Cambridge, Massachusetts, in Indianapolis,
Indianapolis. It's
Indiana.
got many syllables.
Yes. And these guys, we love them. They've been with us. They took a chance with us from the very beginning.
Right.
And so I encourage you, audience, to check out their catalog. Go to hackettpublishing.com. It's HACKETT publishing.com. And check out their amazing selections. A wide array of classics, of course, but also from many other areas of academia. The Aristotle volume that we just gave away, translations, multiple translations of the same work. And so you can kind of pick and choose what you want. Attractive covers, affordable volumes. I can't say enough.
Wow, Jeff, you've said it all.
Yeah, I did.
They need to enter a coupon code when they get there.
They do, and that coupon code is AN2026.
And you probably know what they'll get when they do that.
Well, there's three things, actually. There's 20% off the entire order. There you get free shipping
correct
on your order.
And do they also get like their own family edition of Racco?
Oh, man, we're going to arrange that giveaway someday, Dave. Someday. But no, the third thing is they get the satisfaction and pleasure of helping this little humble podcast.
Check it out. And so I suppose, Jeff, I need to do all the heavy lifting on this one myself?
Of course.
Don't say anything.
Oh.
I'm doing the heavy lifting.
All right.
This episode is also brought to you by the great folks at Ratio Coffee. This morning, I woke up, I brewed 2 cups in my Ratio 4.
Nice.
I poured it into... You're saying something.
Keep going.
I poured it into my shaker. I did something real unusual. And I added hot coffee with cold ice, which is the best kind of ice, and some protein drink. And I shook it all up, and I drank it. And I could taste the coffee, and it was delicious. Made by the Ratio 4. Are you surprised? Because you thought I was kind of a coffee purist.
Am I allowed to speak now?
Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
Yeah. Now, I am a little surprised that
Yeah.
the iced coffee, I would never have paid you for an iced coffee guy.
Well, normally I'm not.
Yeah.
But it was a way to deliver the protein.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
And it was delicious. It was one touch. I bloomed. I brewed. I was ready.
Fantastic.
Did you brew in this? Maybe I should make all of our interaction yes and no questions.
Yeah.
Did you brew this morning?
I did.
Ratio 6?
8.
That's not a yes or a no. There he goes again.
No, not the ratio 6. I brewed in my ratio 8 this morning. Yes,
and when you got to the office, did you brew in the 4?
I did not today, but that's probably why my day felt off today.
So that's a no.
That is a no.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, he doesn't know how to play the game. No Racco edition for you. So, Jeff,
Yes.
what should our listeners do if they want to score a great coffee machine?
Well, they should go to ratiocoffee.com/ad nauseum, the name of this podcast. Don't forget the V in the nauseum part there.
Is there one in Rave Show also?
No, there's not.
If I can interrupt you for 1 second,
Please, yes.
You probably couldn't stop me. As I was visiting these Alabamians, previously mentioned, you're not going to believe this. One individual thought that we were selling racial coffee. No, racial coffee.
Do we need to enunciate a little better?
Maybe no. Ratio coffee.
Ratio. Yes. Okay.
Then they go to ratiocoffee.com/ad nauseum.
Yes, and if they put in this coupon code ANRATIO, ANRATIO 2026, they will get $20 off any machine that they order.
Check it out. Jeff, you ever been to Tucson, Arizona?
I have been to Tucson.
Okay, did you go to Tombstone and order a pizza?
I should have, but I did not.
Okay, what were you doing in Tucson?
I was giving a paper at CAMWIS.
Really?
Yes.
In a liminal space?
In a liminal space at the University of Arizona, which is very liminal.
Tucson
is very liminal.
Why?
It's because in the middle of the desert.
Okay.
Right.
What's liminal about the desert?
Well, it's because it's a transition point from one end of the desert to the next.
It seems more like an extreme than a liminality kind of place.
I suppose maybe it's a pocket of civilization in the midst of a liminal space. Maybe
Okay,
that's better.
all
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Now, did you go through that desert on a particular kind of horse, and did it have a name?
I named him Lenny.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that a reference I'm not getting?
No, I'm just dropping.
Don't you know the band America?
Of course, I know what you're talking about.
I've been through the desert on a horse with no name.
Yes, I hate that song, and I want the
You
horse.
don't like that
That's
song?
A horrible song.
It's great.
It's ridiculous.
It felt good to be out of the rain.
Yeah. What a joke. Name the horse. Lenny. That's what I'm naming it.
Okay.
All right. Why don't we talk about Tucson?
Because that's where Della Chelpka lives.
Yes.
That's where she paints with breathtaking detail the moments, the places, the people, the animals that capture your experience.
Mhm.
Would you like some art that speaks to your experience?
Every day of my life.
Are you tired of art that speaks to other people's experience?
I've had it with that.
Then what do you suggest the listener do?
Well, they need to go to dellachelpka.art.
Can you spell that?
Yes, I can. DELLACHELPKA.art. And you'll see on your screen the wonderful selection, the incredible selection of her incredible art. And if you want to pick up one of these, go there. You can order it. And if you put in this coupon code, Dave, what's the coupon code?
I don't know, but I'm a little confused about your use of adjectives here, whether it's wonderful or incredible.
I think it's incredible.
Okay, that's
Right.
wonderful.
Yeah.
The coupon code is Apelles.
Yes.
That's spelled SELLEPA.
No, Dave.
Did I spell it backwards?
You spelled it backwards.
Okay.
It's APELLES.
All right.
Yes, the name of the great painter from antiquity. And if you do that, you will get your special ad nauseum discount of 10% off your entire order and within the continental United States, free shipping.
Check it out.
Yeah, so as we get back into this, Aaron, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, this is something that our listeners, I think, would be very interested in, kind of your, and you could apply this to the meditations or any of the translation that you've done of, do you have like a theory of translation or how you approach a text? Even things like when you approach a translation, do you look at what other translators have done, or do you try to keep it? I just want to approach the text just on my own, and you keep the other stuff out.
You know how there are method actors who go fully into their role and embodying the character fully, and they live it. They live as their character. I kind of try to do the same thing. The model I use for translation is that of a spiritual medium, right? Who is possessed by the original author and then speaks in English, even if that dead ghost that's visiting wrote and spoke in ancient Greek and Latin, speaks in English while possessed with the author. That is, I go all in on it.
Okay.
I usually don't look at competing translations until I have a first draft. But with meditations, I did, because I wanted to find a translation that captured the valence, the power, and distinguished between the various voices in the meditations. And I didn't find one that did. I can talk about my problems with the competing translations if you would like, but I wanted very much my translation to do something new, to bring Marcus Aurelius to life in living color. The analogy I use to talk about what I try to do in the meditations is this. Everyone knows the Parthenon atop the Acropolis in Athens. And we see it in that beautiful white marble. And that white marble is like a model of what the classical is, right? Cold, aloof, marmoreal. Point I make is that the Parthenon was gaudily painted say, the 5th century in Athens with bright, bright, bright colors. The ancient Greeks loved bling and they loved bright colors. And so other translations, many of them, give you the meditations as a kind of cold, marmoreal Parthenon. But I try to give the Parthenon in living color, as it was, say, in 5th century Athens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the image I often use in my classes when I talk about that very thing of the painted up Parthenon was to compare it to like a Miami nightclub. And
Yes.
right.
Or the pastels.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Or the primary colors.
Neon, exactly,
That's really
yeah.
good. I'll use that. I'm going to use that.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you trademark that, Jeff? I can't remember.
No, I'm still working on that. I wonder, could you? I would love to hear you say talk a little bit about other things that you don't have to name names, but in other translations of what you found lacking that you wanted to improve upon.
Got it. Yes. And so the first set is the archaic translations. I mean, those are in the public domain now, and they are older, and they are full of these and thous and heightened diction in English. And I see those as, well, just plain wrong. As I said, Marcus uses slang. He's writing for himself, to himself. He has no reason to be formal, right? And so he'll quote, a couple times he quotes from old comedy and then later on from new comedy, and the lines are obscene, for example. He doesn't say defecate, he uses the other word in ancient Greek.
Yeah.
Yes. And so there are those translations, and I see those as inaccurate because they're not capturing the voice. They're also just hard to read. There are the philosophical translations that tend to leave out the passion. As I said, Marcus is a zealot. He's all in religiously on this philosophy. And the dispassionate translations also struck me as leaving something out. And then there are a few translations, some of them quite popular, that dumb the meditations down. He writes in long sentences frequently, as that sentence you read indicates, right? But other translators will break them down into little, I guess, perhaps more digestible chunks, into shorter sentences. And I see those translations as underestimating the reader, right? I'm willing, when Marcus writes a long sentence, I feel obliged to translate that long sentence into English, right? Not to break it down and simplify it. And so
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say I have an example of that from your translation here in Book 4. So this is page 46, and it's Book 4, number 37, and I like it a lot, both as a translation as well as the sentiment that Marcus puts into this. Could you read us number 37, please? Because I think it illustrates kind of what you were saying.
You will die any time now, and you are not yet uncomplicated, imperturbable, unsuspicious of the outside world and the so-called harm it can do, well disposed toward every fellow human, and convinced that being just and doing just deeds coalesce.
Yeah, so that's quite a downer. Now, so my own work as in grad school was on Cicero and Stoicism, right? His Stoicism. And so I'm very drawn to Stoicism. But when I read something like this, it just hits. I'm going to die anytime now, and here are all of the things that are still wrong with me. I'm not yet uncomplicated, imperturbable. I still suspect the outside world. I'm poorly disposed towards most fellow humans, and I don't understand wisdom or justice. So how did you, the length of the sentence and the translation quality are great, but did you ever just want to shake your fist at Marcus a little bit and say, this is like, as one of our former guests, Gary Schmidt, this is like reading Dostoevsky. It's too grim.
Yes, death. Death is where I depart from Marcus Aurelius. But I am willing to admit he's a wiser man than myself. I am terrified of death. Terrified. Oh my God. Right. Whereas Marcus, death is major in the Meditations. We see it functioning as in this section we just read, right, where there's an urgency, right? We are living here, our life is in the present moment, and it's short. And so you're going to have to do everything you need to do soon, right? Urgency. He puts pressure on himself. And in some ways, when he talks about working with the present moment, that theme interacts with the famous carpe diem theme, the seize the day theme in Latin, right? Also, though, he goes on and on about death. He's almost, I would say he's obsessed with it, right?
Sure.
Telling himself not to fear it. He says there are all these changes that have happened in our life, and they're nothing to be afraid of. There's being born, there's going through puberty, there's becoming an adult, there's getting old, and then there's dying, right? He says nothing was bad in all those previous experiences, and death also is not something to be feared. But in other sections, Marcus seems eager to go. He lists people with their various vices in one section and then ends it, how much longer here? Like he's annoyed to be trapped down here among these humans. And he wants to move on to whatever death will bring him.
Does he muse upon an afterlife in any specific way?
Oh, yeah, in a number of sections. In one section, I think I can quote it verbatim. He says, concerning death is the introduction. If we are particulate, it is dispersal. That's the Epicurean view, right? With the swerve of the atoms and other things like that, right? But then he goes on to say, if we each are a unity, then death is either obliteration or relocation. He considered these possibilities, and then he looks at them all and says, none of those are reasons to be afraid. You shouldn't be afraid of being reduced to particles. You shouldn't be afraid of being obliterated, because then he says, at least you won't be suffering anything any longer. But he does also consider the option of an afterlife, and he says we should trust the gods. The gods would never move us anywhere bad, right? And so, yes, and so he considers all three of those options, but he never settles wholeheartedly on one or the other of them.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Socrates near the end of the Apology too, kind of thinking about what's waiting for him, right? Either kind of a dreamless sleep, or he can continue kind of annoying people with his questions, right? And
he never considers it might be punishment. I mean, isn't that a possibility too?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I love the end of the Apology and Socrates' distinction there. But what Socrates doesn't get, at least about me, is that I'm afraid of the dreamless sleep. I don't want a dreamless sleep. I don't want to stop being conscious. But Marcus settles that as well. He says, that if you go on living, either you'll be obliterated, or if you go on living, you'll go on living in a different way. You won't have your five senses any longer, right? But then he says, at least you'll still be alive, right? Yeah, you'll be in a completely different form of being, but at least you'll still be alive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on, I'm going to go ahead to book 6, Jeff, unless you have something percolating.
Please go ahead.
I love this. I love this approach.
Book 6, it's number 29 on, actually it's on page 80. So I want to look at all of 29, which is very short, and then just a little bit of 30. So 29, think about your life. It's shameful that, though your body never stops operating, your mind does. There's a lot of wisdom in that, right? Because when I'm sitting there, watching YouTube or otherwise wasting time, my body's still functioning like it's supposed to, still circulating blood, digesting food, repairing cells, but my mind is completely checked out. Yeah. Right? And Marcus Aurelius, he wants me to know that that's shameful, or at least he's telling himself, right, that that's shameful. Did this particular meditation stick out to you, or were there others that you kind of, after you translated them, you thought, well, that's profound, or that really, how do the young people say, hits you in the feels? Is that what they say?
Yeah, hits you in the feels. Yes. I do like that section in there. I in a way, I'm in love with all of them, but there are some others, yes, I'm particularly fond of. I'd be happy to talk about later. And so our bodies have various purposes, right? Our stomachs breaking down food. We're excreting various things. Right. And so our body never stops doing that, never stops working on those processes. Whereas he says, your mind does. And, it's interesting. Of course, there's sleep, and Marcus recognizes the need for short breaks, but he calls himself out for making those periods of respite, say for eating, for example, or talking to other people, that he drags them out too long and is being wasteful. And so, yes, another quote, from the Meditations kind of puts this in perspective. He says, even our most trivial exertions should serve some purpose. So our whole waking day, we should only be doing things that serve some purpose. And the ideal purpose we should be serving then is just action, right? That is doing things that further the interests of one's home state and also the interests of the koinonia, the human commonwealth to which we all belong.
That's really good. And number 30, which follows right on that one I just read, talks about being Caesarified, right? Don't let yourself become a Caesar. Could you read maybe the first 3 sentences of that one for us? Because it's fascinating.
I would love to. Make sure you aren't dyed imperial purple. Don't let yourself be Caesarified. It can happen. You should rather live your life as a simple, good, uncorrupted, earnest, unaffected, justice-loving, God-exalting, well-meaning, affectionate, and vigorous pursuer of all you are meant to achieve. Good. Marcus loves to list virtues, and does that again and again. And then in other sections, when he brings up the virtues, he'll define them, and he does an amazing job at it. Good. And so Marcus, as we've seen, he abhors all pomp and affectation. So, and this is in the biographical record, and it certainly comes through in the Meditations. We are told that when he was in his teens and informed that he had to assume a place in the ranks of dynastic succession, right, that he was going to be the successor to Antoninus Pius, he was upset rather than excited. He wanted to be free. It's very clear. We have other letters from friends from Fronto that make clear Marcus wanted to be a philosopher. He didn't want to be a Roman emperor. But he got drafted into it and had no choice. And so, yes, as I said, he abhors all pomp, he abhors all bling. And this comes out, I think, also in his prose style. Seneca, referring to something we don't have quoted elsewhere about Socrates, Seneca says that perfecting your prose style is a mirror of your greater attempt to protect your life. And we see Marcus's abhorrence for bling, I would argue, in his prose style. He can be rhetorical, but the rhetoric is serving some clear purpose, right? He's not just being flashy, and he will criticize the sophists. Meditations was written during what's called the Second Sophistic. A time in which there was a renewal of appreciation for the original sophists who lived in 5th and 4th centuries BC in Athens, mostly.
Okay, and that's your expertise, Jeff, right, with Apuleius?
Apuleius from the, right, almost exactly the same era. Yeah.
So I think we got to keep an eye on the clock. I have a couple other quick things, Jeff, but I want to make sure that you get in all of your questions.
Yeah, and I think I have a question that's a good kind of end of interview question, or getting towards the end, yes. And so, Aaron, you mentioned at the beginning of our time that kind of moving away from poetry towards the Meditations, that you were kind of seeking a kind of calm away from the big emotions. And I want to ask you that by translating the Meditations, did you find that calm? Did you find that calm that you were working for?
Still working on it, but the Meditations was very helpful. As I said, at the point when I first started working on it, I was open to styles of meditation and new thoughts. I mean, I'll confess, I'm in therapy and see a shrink, and the approach the shrink uses is called cognitive behavioral therapy, that involves making adjustments to your internal assumptions about the world in order to, root out your unhappiness, to root out the things that are upsetting you. And cognitive behavioral therapy has, so much in common with Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and Stoicism in general, in that the heft here is that our own happiness is entirely dependent on ourselves. If we think some external event has been a misfortune and has harmed us, we are wrong. If we think some other person has harmed us, we are wrong. The world and other people can only harm your body. And to Marcus, that is an object of indifference, right? Not something we should be concerned about. We should only be concerned about the virtues. And I would say I've been in therapy for years, but it was translating the meditations that really drove home to me the importance of those internal adjustments. And I've been making them, and yes, and I would have to say I am much happier myself. That it really did sink in. I didn't expect that to happen.
Right.
I still had, as a poet, I had some resistance to Stoicism, but Marcus broke that down.
It's incredible that he'd be able to do that, not to make light of your experience, but totally to affirm it. Jeff and I were thinking about doing something similar and instead just started this podcast. Just kidding.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And then the final question I wanted to ask is, it's actually meditation number 36 of book 12. So it's the very last one, page 204. And it maybe isn't the last one he wrote. I understand we don't really know, but I really like the last part here. Well said, life, though sometimes is only 3 acts long. What in the past was the cause of your creation now is the cause of your dissolution. Leave life contentedly. What is releasing you is itself content. So I just want your reflection on that, Aaron. And also then we typically ask our guests 2 questions. We ask them, what's next for you in terms of your work and career? And then don't we ask them, Jeff, what kind of advice they might give to young people or teachers of Greek and Latin, how they should practice their craft, what they should look for?
Yeah.
Oh, got it. Yes, thank you for that. And so, yes, that section 36 of book 12 works very, very well as a close to the meditations. But as you said, we can't be absolutely certain it was the last entry in the original manuscript. But I would argue there's good reason to believe that it is. That if an editor had gone to work on meditations, he likely would have grouped material thematically, right? And because there's no linear progression and they basically are random, right? The way the entries come up, I think of them in terms of theme and variation, right? It's not unlikely this was the conclusion to the work as a whole. Referring to life being sometimes only 3 acts instead of 5 acts long, Marcus would say, when the perfected Stoic does an action, I'm not sure I entirely have wrapped my mind around this so that I can agree with him. But he says when the perfected Stoic does actions, he doesn't leave anything half done. Everything he does, because he's perfected, he leaves perfected himself. And then the conclusion, what is releasing you is itself content, is a reference to nature with a capital N, right? And the whole Stoic goal is living in accordance with nature. Nature never gets ruffled. It is perfect and it seamlessly brings about the world. And you should, as you leave life, right, seamlessly slip into whatever of the 3 options we talked about is awaiting you after death. To answer the next question, but what I'm going to work on next, mostly now I am a poet. And so I'm working on a new collection of poems that I hope will come out in 2027, focusing on that. And then, yes, to fellow classicists and aspiring classicists, I guess I only want to say, you're doing the right thing. People who study the humanities are dear to my heart, right? I mean, I'm a faculty brat. My dad was a philosophy professor. And so I've been with this material in one way or another my entire life. And I just see the study of the humanities and of classics in general as an admirable pursuit, right? I just want to tell them you're doing the right thing. The money might not come, but who cares? You're studying the most fascinating literature ever written. You're trying to answer the most important questions in human life. I just want to tell them, carry on. You're doing the right thing.
That's very good.
I love it. That's
very,
great.
Very stoic, right?
Very stoic, but very
Brilliant.
very encouraging. I love that.
So we need to tell Aaron, thank you here, Jeff,
Yes.
for coming on the show and being such a wonderful guest. Thank you so much. We really enjoyed it. I'm really grateful to the publisher. It's a lovely volume. I love the marbling on the edges of the pages.
Yeah, that's great.
The cover design is fantastic, and I'm really going to enjoy reading the whole thing instead of just the excerpts thus far.
Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much,
much,
David,
Aaron.
Jeffrey. Great to meet you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya. All right, Dave. That was great.
It was.
That was a lot of fun.
It was. I was really impressed by Professor Poochigian's enthusiasm for his subject
Exactly.
and mastery of the material.
Really? Yeah. I know. I thought then when he kept saying that he was all in, there was no doubt about that.
Absolutely. It was
Yeah.
interesting because he told us that Marcus Aurelius was all in on Stoicism.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like you were, this capable translator is all in on his subject.
Yes.
It really shines through.
Yeah. I thought that was very attractive and engaging.
That's
So,
right.
Yeah. Really great stuff. Check
It's
it out.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
But Dave, we got to get out of here.
We do. We have a little bit of housekeeping.
Dave, help our listeners learn some Latin and Greek, will you?
I can do that. Okay. Yes. If you have the feeling that you're about to die soon, and what was it that Marcus Aurelius said? You're still suspicious of others.
Yes.
You're still uncomplicated. You're still overly complicated.
Overly complicated.
You're not yet uncomplicated.
Yes.
Like a celebrity with their complicated shoes.
Oh man, I had it with those guys. Yeah.
Go to latinperdiem.com and check out both my Greek courses so you can read Marcus Aurelius in its original.
Mm-hmm.
Or check out my Latin courses, which take you from the ground up ab initio. Jeff looked at me because he was ready to use his catchphrase.
Yeah.
If they want to learn Greek, what will it take them from and to?
Well, it'll take them from being a neophyte to becoming erudite. Yes.
About how many years of study and teaching have I put into this Greek course?
Oh, we're talking. We're close to 30 now, aren't we?
1992 is when
So
I
more than
began studying Greek.
34.
34.
Man.
Yes.
Yes. So, hey, people, take advantage of my colleague's expertise here. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, latinperdiem.com.
Yes.
Yep. And
also, more than 2,500 free lessons on the YouTube channel.
yeah.
And Calvin's Latin Bible app. The entire New Testament is finished. I believe this is the first time, to me, it's satisfying. Maybe it's no big deal. The first time that a Bible in Latin, other than the Vulgate, has been recorded for the ease and enjoyment of the listener.
Is that right?
That's right. I believe so.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Jeff.
That's really quite an accomplishment. That's
Thank
very
you.
cool. Yeah.
And the Old Testament is well on its way. We are adding to it the creeds, letters from the reformers, also read, translated, macronized. You can see the long marks. Calvin's Latin Bible. That's the app. The Psalm version is free. You can upgrade to the premium for a one-time $9.99.
Fantastic. Yes, check that out. And hey, we got people to thank as always. Mishka, our wonderful engineer, the way that she turns this around, the way that she makes us sound is really impressive. And so we are internally grateful to her.
I think there were almost some song lyrics.
Was there?
The way she turns it around, the way she makes us sound.
There we go. Exactly.
Jeff, I think you got something there.
Exactly. Maybe I'll record that.
You should.
And pass it along to Mishka for her to cringe at.
I'm having some deja vu.
Yeah?
That we've done that before.
Have we?
I don't know.
I know. It's very likely 215 episodes in. Yeah. And how about this Jeff Sheets guy?
Yes, the guitar shredder gives us the intro music. I was looking at our back catalog, and we used the other intro for 180 episodes.
Yeah.
And now Jeff's helping us out with Thrill Seeker, and the bumper music is
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour.
Yeah,
You got to rush
fantastic.
out and buy those products, I think is the subtext.
Indeed. Hey, you got a question? You want a shout out? You got a complaint? Drop a note. You can reach Dave at adnauseum.com. Don't forget the V.
Or Jeff at adnauseum.com. Do not forget the V in ad nauseum. No V in Jeff's name. Lurch with merch at our website. And check out Quai Nokent, Dokent t-shirt, hat, etc. And Jeff, what is on the menu for next week?
I think we are going back to Mr. Moreau.
Again?
Yes, again, right?
What for again, precisely?
This is for his study of education in antiquity, and we're going to tackle the Romans now, right?
He's going to do like a 360 turn, keeping one foot in place on the court.
He's going to pivot.
There you go.
There it is, yes.
From the Greeks to the Romans.
Yes.
And we're going to be there for it.
Indeed. Dave, I believe you have our gustatory parting shot.
I do. It's from not Marcus Aurelius, but it is from another Stoic mentioned in this episode. It is from the Stoic Seneca the Younger. It's from letter 18 on festivals and fasting. And as soon as I begin to read it, you will know why. It's because it refers to one of your favorite products.
Oh, really?
Barley porridge. So I'm talking about
Oatmeal?
no grape nuts. Barley porridge, says Seneca, or a crust of barley bread and water do not make a very cheerful diet. I agree.
I agree, yeah.
But nothing gives one keener pleasure than having the ability to derive pleasure even from that. And the feeling of having arrived at something which one cannot be deprived of by any unjust stroke of fortune.
Well, I don't know if I could be a stoic.
So I don't think so. So you're eating a bowl of grape nuts and you're thinking, this tastes terrible.
This is horrible.
It's not a cheerful diet, but it is so pleasing that I can enjoy it, and it cannot be taken by some unjust stroke of fortune.
I guess so.
I don't know. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.